Hi everyone, today I'm going to review on the claim of violent video games are a cause for aggressive behavior. Now, the speaker stated two major supporting claims. The first one, which was the amount of participation, and the second one was the graphics. So let's go on to the first one. For his first claim, he mentioned a research done on children who one group played violent video games for a while and the other group didn't. They asked questions to these children, and he stated that the children who played the violent video games responded in a more aggressive and violent way. However, he failed to mention what kind of questions these children were asked. For example, if the questions were, what would you do if someone came up to you in a violent way, such as trying to kidnap you or rob you, or if someone told you, I'll give you something if you go hurt someone. Or also just simply as asking, oh, how are you feeling today? And they responded in an aggressive way on paper. That is why in the article of Human Communication Research, they stated that because studies use a variety of measures of aggression ranging from actual behavior to paper and pencil measures of aggression feelings, it is difficult to assert whether the observed findings support popular claims that video games represent a danger to society. And he also failed to mention if the kids initially had aggressive intentions or behaviors before being exposed to violent video games. That is why an article called "Do Video Games Make Kids Saints or Psychopaths?" stated that existing aggression, family violence, and male gender were all linked to real world violence, but not violent video game play. And they also mentioned that people who were more violent and were a harm to society, such as Adam Lanza, whose favorite game was Dance Dance Revolution, which is decidedly non-violent, and the Virginia Tech shooter didn't play violent video games at all. So this goes to show that if children who play violent video games played for a certain amount, their aggression that they felt during playing would go onto when they grow up as adults. However, the most harmful people in our society have been shown that they were exposed to violent video games, and the ones who have played violent video games haven't done as much harm as they should from the amount they've been exposed to. That is why some people also believe that violent video games are the cause of aggressive behavior, because the article "Do Video Games Make Kids and Saints or Psychopaths?" also stated that a research fellow at the Oxford Internet Institute found that it wasn't violence in video games that predicted aggression, but rather how frustrating or difficult a game was to compete. And also that another research found that games featuring violent stories and content tend to be more appealing for those who are higher in trait level aggression. So the amount they play the violent video games isn't as important, because if the child already has aggressive tendencies, that will be only an outlet for them to release their aggression, which is actually helpful because it's a healthier outlet, because you're not unleashing their aggression towards other people or like other children in their schools, for example. And the article "Do Video Games Make Kids Saints or Psychopaths?" also stated that, in fact, many games promote pro-social behaviors such as cooperation, teamwork, and empathy, and that one analysis found that playing first-person shooter games increased visual spatial skills, and that playing strategy or role-playing boosts creative problem-solving skills, and also showed that games improve mood, promote relaxation, and decrease stress and anxiety. So while these kids are playing the games, they're not only feeling aggressive, but they're also feeling other emotions such as happiness, sadness, frustration, or they're just simply using their mind more, which distracts them from thinking that they were aggressive or connect their aggression with the game. The second thing he talked about was graphics. For graphics, it wasn't that much of an importance, because it's only been recently that the gaming graphics have been improved, and people have been discussing about violence and the correlation with aggressive behavior in children for many, many years. So that goes to show that graphics isn't really important. It's more of like how violent the game is or other factors to that. So that goes to show that games don't really cause slight aggressive behavior, and it's usually not permanent. Thank you.
All right, well, you previewed the supporting points pretty clearly. You go to the first point, and this is basically where most of your argument is, because the graphics argument has hardly any content to it when you do get to it. The first point, you raise questions about the kinds of questions that come up in the research, and you suggest that there might be problems with some of those questions. I don't know why you believe there would be problems with those questions. There's no evidence to suggest that there's something wrong with the questions. The best response that you have here is the argument and the piece of evidence that you have that says that this sort of research makes it difficult to establish a relationship between these kinds of things because of the way things have to be measured. That, I think, is a much clearer answer than your list of, well, what were they asking them, and how did they feel in the first place, and what did we know about them to begin with? I think this argument that basically says, this is a more generic argument that says, this kind of research leaves so many things unclear is that you can't reach a particular conclusion. I think the next argument is a good argument, and you need a clearer statement of what that claim is. I'm getting it mostly from the evidence that you presented, but the evidence that you seem to present suggests that a variety of other factors are more likely to be linked to violence rather than video games, and that would include family background, drug use, how they do in school, psychological problems, all those sorts of things, and that those things are much more likely to have an impact and in comparison to video games. And then I don't know that you had any statistic that came from that particular source, but the explanation that came up was Adam Lanza and the university and the guy at the University of Virginia, UTA. No, it's Virginia Tech. That's what it was. Virginia Tech. All right, I wrote it down. VT. Yeah, Virginia Tech. Who didn't even play those. So basically, you have counter examples to illustrate the notion that people who engage in these mass killing things, they're not being influenced by video games. So the likelihood that other people are being influenced by video games seems also probably relatively small. Like I said, I like the examples there, especially since they're well-known illustrations of this particular problem. You also challenge the causality of the study, suggesting that it's really the frustration with the game, not the violence, that produces people's levels of aggression. And I think that's an interesting point. In other words, the game is difficult for people, and that's why they get aggressive, not because of what they're doing in the game. It's not because I'm trying to kill 50 people at one time, and that's what makes me aggressive. It's that I'm trying to do 50 things at one time, and that's the thing that makes me pissed and frustrated. That, I think, is a good push on this argument, and you even have some information that suggests that that's a potential problem there. I like the counterclaims about catharsis and sometimes potential benefits of playing with games. That they get more visual acuity, or they multitask more, or they cooperate with others. I think that those are all interesting points. The thing that's missing here is there's not much comparison of the advocates' arguments. In other words, we don't really know why. I know what your arguments are. I know why you believe in your position on these things, but I don't know how to contrast that to the arguments that were presented by the advocate, because you don't really kind of talk about their evidence very much. There's not a lot of discussion of that. On the second point on graphics, like I said earlier, you didn't really say much yourself. I'm not sure what the advocate offered by way of argument on that particular point either. So it's a little hard to assess, like we're talking about things being hard to evaluate. Well, that would be one of them. All right, thank you.